What if freedom, that sacred word we carve into constitutions, sing in anthems and tattoo onto our skin, was never real? What if free will, the idea that you are the master of your own life, was nothing more than a story, useful, comforting, but false? We love to imagine ourselves as free beings, choosing our destinies with bold strokes. But the truth, whispered by philosophers and screamed by science, is darker. You're not free, and you never were. And the most dangerous part? You were trained to believe you are. From the first cry you gave at birth, the world began to script you. The language you speak, the morality you obey, the gods you worship, the nation you salute, all were handed to you like costumes for a play you never auditioned for. You did not choose the soil beneath your feet, nor the accent in your voice, nor the names of your parents' gods. You were dropped into a pre-written stage, and before you could think for yourself, the lines were drilled into your head. And yet years later you stand on that stage and proudly declare, "I am free." But freedom does not exist in a vacuum. It requires options that are truly yours. And here's the catch. Your options were already filtered. Your choices are boundaries carefully laid out by culture, law, and circumstance. Society says, you may be anything you want, as long as it's within the realm of acceptability. You may work, but only within the structures of labor. You may love, but only within sanctioned forms. You may rebel, but only in ways that can be consumed and sold back to you as fashion. Even your conscience is not yours. That voice in your head that scolds you when you lie, when you betray, when you step out of line. That voice is society, whispering through you. The 10 Commandments, the laws of nations, the rules of etiquette, these are not universal truths. They are inventions designed to tame the chaos of human desire and channel it into obedience. You call it morality. I call it a leash. And the leash works best when you mistake it for freedom. Spinoza saw this centuries ago. He said that man believes himself free because he is conscious of his desires, yet ignorant of the causes that produce them. You think you wanted that career, that partner, that car, but your desires are not your own. They are products of biology, advertising, trauma, history. You are a puppet of forces you cannot see. And the cruelest twist, you call the strings your will. Neuroscience confirms what philosophy suspected. Experiments reveal that your brain makes decisions before you are aware of them. Milliseconds before you think, "I'll move my hand," your neurons already decided. Your consciousness is late to the party, fabricating the illusion of choice after the fact. Free will is not freedom. It's a commentary track your brain plays over actions it already committed to. You are not the author. You are the narrator, telling a story you mistake for authorship. But freedom is too useful a myth to abandon. Religion depends on it. Without free will, sin collapses. How can a God judge you if you were never free to choose? Politics depends on it. Democracy is theater without the myth of agency. Capitalism thrives on it. If you're not free, then failure is not your fault, but the system's. And the system cannot tolerate that thought. So the myth of freedom is hammered into you every day, in every commercial, every speech, every story. You are told, you can be anything. The truth, you can be anything as long as it sustains the machine. Even rebellion has been domesticated. You dye your hair neon, scream against authority, reject your parents' values. But the market anticipated you. Your rebellion has already been packaged, priced and sold. Punk becomes fashion, counterculture becomes brand, dissent becomes meme. You think you are free in your defiance, but the trap feeds on defiance as much as obedience. The system does not fear your rebellion, it thrives on it. And what of the self? Surely if nowhere else, freedom lies within. But the self is the greatest prison of all. Buddhism teaches that the self is an illusion. a bundle of memories, sensations, and narratives pretending to be permanent. Neuroscience agrees. There is no central I in the brain, no sovereign soul steering the body. There are only modules, impulses, fragments stitched into the illusion of continuity. You are not a unified self making free choices. You are a storm of processes, mistaking their noise for a voice. This is the philosophical trap. You were told freedom is your birthright, proof of your humanity. But every layer, society, biology, psychology, metaphysics, exposes the lie. You are not free. You never were. Now comes the inevitable question. If freedom is false, what remains? Is despair the only answer? Not quite. The end of freedom is not the end of life. It is the end of illusion. And the end of illusion is the beginning of clarity. Camus called this revolt, the moment you stop bargaining with fantasy and start living in the raw absurd. If you are not free, then you are also not guilty of failing to be what you were never designed to be. If you are not sovereign, then you are not bound to the crushing weight of destiny. If the self is an illusion, then every story of your failures, every scar of shame is just as fictional as your imagined control. The trap does not just enslave, it dissolves. And in that dissolution, something strange appears. A smaller, humbler kind of freedom. Not the cosmic freedom promised in Scripture, not the political freedom engraved in constitutions, but the freedom of response. You cannot control the world, but you can decide how to meet it. You cannot rewrite causality, but you can play with its currents. You cannot become free in the absolute sense, but you can be lucid, awake, defiant. Think of Prometheus, chained to the rock, his liver torn out daily by the eagle. Was he free? No. But his defiance in giving fire to humanity, knowing the punishment, was freedom enough. Think of Sisyphus, condemned to the boulder. Was he free? No. But in his smile, in his embrace of futility, Camus found freedom. And think of yourself, not as a sovereign agent, but as a lucid prisoner, laughing at the bars because you finally see them. You are not free. You never were. But once you accept this, you no longer need the myth. You no longer chase the mirage of total control. You live not as a god, but as a rebel. Not as a master of fate, but as a conspirator against illusion. That is the only real freedom there has ever been. Not escape from the trap, but awareness of it. So stop demanding liberty as if it were owed. Stop believing choice is infinite. Stop kneeling before the false altar of free will. Look at the bars, stare at the leash, and then grin. Because the leash is not freedom, but neither is it despair. It is simply the truth. And once you know it, the trap no longer works as intended. Comment the illusion of freedom you're ready to kill, like if this broke your chains. Share with someone still clinging to the myth. And subscribe for more dark philosophy that dismantles the lies you were taught to worship. You say you want freedom, but do you really? Or have you mistaken the idea of freedom with the feeling of comfort, with the convenience of choice without consequence, with the illusion of autonomy while staying wrapped in familiar chains? Let's tell a darker truth. One most people are afraid to admit. We don't fear being controlled. We fear what happens when no one is in control. Because true freedom is raw, chaotic, and cold. It's the sudden awareness that you are the only one responsible for every choice, every failure, and every outcome. That there's no script, no rescue, no excuse. And most people would rather hand over the steering wheel than drive blind through the fog. From childhood, you were given rules, not just to keep you safe, but to keep you predictable. Don't question too much, don't dream too far, don't speak when it's inconvenient. Over time, those rules became your voice. You think you're making choices, but what if your choices were already made for you? Not in a lab, not in a conspiracy, but in culture, in school, in the praise you were fed when you conformed. and the silence you got when you didn't. So when someone says freedom, they often mean freedom to choose between two cages, freedom to decorate your cell, freedom to pick your favorite lie. Real freedom is something else. It's not ease, it's not happiness. It's the brutal, beautiful burden of being awake, of recognizing that no one else is coming, that the system, the tribe, the institution, they don't have your best interest at heart. They have their own. And if you want to live fully, not just exist, not just perform, you must begin with the most terrifying act of all: thinking for yourself. Erich Fromm saw it clearly in Escape from Freedom. People don't escape from tyranny, they escape from choice. Given the weight of freedom, they run back to authority. They beg for certainty, for ideology, for anything that tells them what to do and who to be. Why? Because freedom means blame. It means failure is yours. Pain is yours. The consequences belong to no one else. That's too much for most. So instead, they opt into control. They don't just tolerate it, they want it. Look at the world around you. People follow influencers like prophets. They parrot slogans as if they were personal revelations. They obsess over political sides as if morality could be prepackaged and sold. This isn't rebellion, it's organized obedience. But there's a cost. Every time you outsource your beliefs to a group, every time you swallow a system whole without chewing, a part of you dies. The part that questions, the part that imagines, the part that dares. And slowly you become a ghost of your potential, fully dressed but empty, surrounded by noise but hollow inside. Freedom doesn't feel like power at first. It feels like loneliness. The loneliness of walking a path no one gave you permission to walk. The silence of discovering your own values when no one is clapping. The fear of standing still while the mob rushes past. But that silence, that void, is sacred. It's the furnace where real identity is forged. When you stop asking who you should be and start asking who you are, you step into danger. Because now you're no longer useful to systems that depend on your compliance. You're no longer predictable. You're no longer safe. For them, you become something else, a free mind. And a free mind is contagious. That's why the world tries to silence them, mock them, cancel them. Because one truly sovereign person threatens the illusion of collective obedience. So ask yourself, are your thoughts yours, or are they echoes? When you defend a belief, is it because you've tested it, or because it makes you feel accepted? When you obey a rule, is it because it's right, or because it's familiar? When you fear speaking, deciding, stepping off the approved path, whose fear is that? The fear of freedom isn't cowardice, it's conditioning, and you can break it. But don't expect applause. Freedom won't make you popular. It won't make you comfortable. It will strip you bare. It will show you what happens when no one's watching and you still do the right thing, or the wrong thing, but your thing. And that is terrifying. But it's also holy. The moment you begin to live without needing permission is the moment you begin to exist as something more than a role. You begin to exist as a force. A builder, a destroyer, a creator of your own life. That life may not be easy, but it will be yours. You'll lose followers, you'll lose tribes, you'll lose the sweet seduction of certainty, but you'll gain clarity, vision, the calm, unshakable power that only comes from knowing no one owns your mind but you. Let's take it further. Even after recognizing the weight of freedom, most people still return to the cage. Not because they're weak, but because they're tired. Tired of choices. Tired of carrying the full burden of being awake in a world that never stops pressing down on you. Freedom sounds noble until you realize what it demands. Relentless vigilance. The responsibility to question not just what you're told, but what you tell yourself. To interrogate your instincts, your assumptions, your comforts. To refuse the easy answer and still keep going. And let's be honest, most institutions aren't built for freedom. They're built for efficiency, obedience, predictability. Schools don't teach you how to think, they teach you what to repeat. Work doesn't want visionaries, it wants functionaries. Governments? They thrive not on your independence, but on your dependence. A truly free population is hard to control. It resists dogma, it questions narratives, it remembers history, and learns from it. And so what happens? The pressure to conform isn't just external, it becomes internalized. You begin to police your own thoughts. You feel guilt for deviating from the tribe. You shrink your desires, soften your words, bite your tongue, until the free self inside you is buried beneath layers of social survival. And yet that self never dies. It waits. It watches. It whispers in moments of silence, reminding you that the life you've been taught to want isn't the life you actually crave.
You don't want more likes, you want meaning.
You don't want permission, you want purpose. But purpose doesn't come in a box. It doesn't come from someone else's checklist. It must be forged, painfully, slowly, and often alone. That's why freedom, real freedom, isn't glamorous. It's not the highlight reel. It's not the perfect body or the dream job or the applause. It's walking away from what everyone says is success, because you've realized that their version of winning still feels like losing. It's staring into the abyss of your own mind and refusing to look away. It's saying no when it would be easier to say yes. And yes when it costs you something real. The world rewards the obedient, it fears the free, but it also needs them, desperately. Because without the ones who dare to live differently, the system stagnates. The future dies. The script repeats, unchallenged. So if you feel like you don't fit in, like you ask questions that others avoid, like you feel alienated from the mass hypnosis of normal, good. That discomfort is your compass. Follow it. Because the path to real liberation isn't paved, it's hacked through the wilderness. And no one hands you a machete. You build it yourself. You sharpen it on failure, on rejection, on solitude. You use it to cut away the false identities, the half-truths, the borrowed dreams. And one day you look around and realize the wilderness isn't terrifying anymore. It's honest, it's alive, it's yours. You've become not just free, but untouchable. No longer ruled by shame or trends or the need to be seen. You've stopped performing. You've started living. And in that moment, not when you escape the system, but when the system no longer defines you, you win. Freedom was never about escape. It was about awakening. If you're still here, you're already awakening. So keep going. Like this, share it. Leave a comment below. I choose discomfort over control. Subscribe for more and turn on notifications so you never miss a challenge to the comfortable lies. You were not born to be tamed. You are born to walk into the fire and emerge ungoverned. What if everything you believed about free will was a story, crafted not to liberate you but to keep you compliant? The truth about free will they don't teach in universities. From the moment you're born, they tell you you're free, that your choices define you, that your path is yours to carve. But step back and look closer. Why do you want what you want? Why do you fear what you fear? And why do your choices look so much like everyone else's? Free will is not just a philosophical concept, it's a cultural myth, packaged and sold by institutions that rely on your obedience. From classrooms to corporations, from churches to screens, the narrative is the same. You are free, therefore you are responsible. But what if the very belief in your freedom is the final chain? In ancient philosophy, the concept of free will barely existed. The Greeks believed in fate. The Stoics believed in logos, divine reason guiding all things. And even when the early Christians spoke of the will, it was always chained to sin or grace. Only in modernity, only in the age of mass control, did free will become a slogan, a badge of identity, a justification for systems that demand your loyalty while pretending to offer liberation. The truth is darker. Free will, as commonly understood, is an illusion. Not because you're a robot, but because you're a product. Your preferences, beliefs, and even your sense of self have been sculpted by forces you never consented to. Algorithms, upbringing, language, trauma, advertising, social norms. None of these ask permission before rewriting your mind. They don't need to. Because if you believe you're free, you won't notice the edits. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is behavioral psychology, neuroscience, philosophy stripped of its feel-good filters. In countless experiments, we see the truth. People act first, explain later. The brain decides milliseconds before the conscious mind chooses. Your desires appear spontaneous, but they are echoes of history, of programming, of survival. But here's the twist. Just because free will is a lie doesn't mean you're doomed. In fact, understanding the illusion is the first step to real freedom. Not the kind they market to you, the kind you build. Step 1. Expose the programming. Begin with your core beliefs. What do you think is right, wrong, good, bad, beautiful, shameful? Now trace each one. Where did it come from? Your parents, your school, a commercial, a trauma. Keep digging. When you find a belief that has no origin, you can defend, burn it. This is not cynicism, it's clarity. Step 2. Interrogate your desires. What do you want? Wealth, fame, love, respect, power. Now ask, who benefits from that desire? Is it really yours, or was it installed? Desire is the most powerful tool of control. You don't have to be chained when your cravings do the job. Step 3. Disrupt your patterns. The more predictable you are, the easier you are to manipulate. So become unpredictable to the world and to yourself. Take cold showers. Read books you disagree with. Say no when you're expected to say yes. Your brain will resist. That's how you know it's working. Step 4. Question the story of the self. You're told there's a permanent you that makes decisions, that has a will. But where is it? In your memories? Those change. In your body? That decays. In your mind? That shifts with chemicals, moods, and time. The self is not a thing, it's a process. And once you see that, the grip of ego begins to loosen. Step 5. Replace will with awareness. You don't need to be in control. You need to be awake. Instead of acting from impulse, act from observation. Watch your thoughts like a scientist. Notice the emotional currents before they carry you. Learn to pause. The space between impulse and action is where real power lives. Universities don't teach this. They teach freedom within systems, options within rules. They hand you a menu and call it autonomy. But that's not freedom. That's curation. Real autonomy starts where the menu ends. The philosophers who saw through this, Spinoza, Schopenhauer, Nietzsche, they weren't nihilists. They were liberators. They knew that by destroying the illusion of free will, you become something far more powerful, a conscious force in a system designed to keep you unconscious. But don't be naive. This path costs. You will lose the comfort of blaming others. You will lose the illusion of moral superiority. You will lose the story that life is fair. But what you gain is priceless. The ability to act without being a puppet. The clarity to choose what you actually value. The peace of knowing that even in a world of influence, you are not owned. Step 6. Build your will like a muscle. If free will doesn't come standard, then it must be built. Through repetition, through rejection of distractions, through enduring discomfort. Think of your will like a forge. Every time you do what's hard but necessary, you heat the metal. Every time you stay present under pressure, you strike. Over time, the blade forms. Not perfect, but sharp enough to cut through illusion. Step 7. Design your own environment. If your thoughts are shaped by context, then you must shape the context. Curate your inputs. Design your spaces. Build systems that reflect your chosen values, not the defaults handed to you. Freedom isn't just internal, it's architectural. Step 8. Kill the spectator. Stop narrating your life like a protagonist in someone else's script. You are not here to impress. You are here to become. Cut the commentary. Drop the self-performance. Burn the mask. Walk into moments raw and unscripted. That's where transformation lives. Step 9. Beware of virtue as sedative. Many people escape one system of control only to fall into another. Morality as identity, activism as addiction, outrage as self-worth. Don't mistake performance for purpose. Virtue isn't what you show, it's what you withstand. Step 10, don't seek freedom, create it. You will not find freedom waiting for you in a diploma, a job, or a spiritual practice. Freedom is forged in discomfort, in disobedience, in deep, disciplined self-inquiry, and it is never finished. You don't reach freedom. You practice it daily. So now ask yourself, what parts of your life are chosen, truly chosen, and what parts are echoes of someone else's design? Like, share, subscribe, and activate notifications, because the next video might break another illusion you didn't know you had. Comment below, what's one belief about yourself you're ready to question? You are not a puppet, but you're not free by default. This is the truth about free will they don't teach in universities. Now that you know it, what will you do with it?